Imagine being trapped on a wooden ship in the middle of a black ocean. No land, no light, only storm clouds above you and endless water beneath your feet. The wind screams through the torn sails. The waves rise like mountains. The compass spins as if the world itself has lost direction. Then suddenly, the water around the ship becomes still, too still. The sailors look over the side. Something is moving beneath them. At first, it looks like a shadow. Then the shadow grows larger. It passes under the hull. The wood begins to groan. The water starts to bubble. And from the darkness below, something enormous begins to rise. For centuries, sailors returned from the sea with stories that sounded impossible. They spoke of giant tentacles wrapping around ships, serpents longer than rivers, living islands that sank beneath their feet, monsters so massive they could turn the ocean into a grave. Most people called them myths, but the ocean has always been the one place on Earth where myths still feel possible. Tonight, Dark Beyond opens 5 terrifying files about the sea monsters sailors feared most. And the first one is the most famous of them all, the Kraken. Of all the monsters ever whispered about in old sailor legends, the Kraken became the nightmare that refused to die. It was said to live in the cold northern seas, a creature so large that some sailors believed it could be mistaken for an island. Others claimed it could rise from the deep and wrap its tentacles around an entire ship. One moment, the ocean would be calm. The next, the water would begin to twist. Bubbles would rise, wood would crack, and then the tentacles would appear. Not all at once, just pieces of something huge. One arm breaking the surface, then another, each one strong enough to pull men, masts, and ships into the black water. That is what made the Kraken so terrifying. Sailors rarely described the whole creature. They described fragments, a tentacle, a shadow, a whirlpool, a force beneath the ship that no human could fight. And maybe that is why the legend survived, because the Kraken was not just a monster. It was the fear that the ocean itself could reach up and take you. But here is the disturbing part. The Kraken may not have been born from pure imagination. Real giant squid exist. They live in deep water, far below the surface, in a world of darkness and pressure. They have enormous eyes, long arms, powerful tentacles, and a body that looks almost alien. For ancient sailors, seeing even part of such a creature would have been enough. A tentacle floating beside the ship, a pale body beneath the waves, a giant eye staring from the dark. Without cameras, science, or submarines, what would they call it? An animal? Or a monster? Maybe the Kraken was exaggerated. Maybe the stories grew larger every time they were told. But somewhere beneath the legend, there may have been something real. And that makes the story even harder to forget. But the Kraken was not alone. Long before modern maps and ocean science, ancient people spoke of something even older, something bigger than a creature, something that represented chaos itself. The Leviathan. The Leviathan was not simply a sea monster, it was a symbol of the deep, a massive beast hidden beneath the waves, too powerful for humans to control. In ancient stories, the Leviathan was described as a creature of overwhelming strength, a monster that belonged to the water before human beings ever dared to cross it. Imagine a ship moving beneath a red storm sky. The ocean begins to rise, not because of wind, not because of a normal wave, but because something beneath the surface is waking up. A massive back breaks through the water. The ship nearby suddenly looks tiny. The creature does not need to attack. Its size alone is enough. That is the terror of Leviathan. It represents one of humanity's oldest fears, that beneath the surface there may be something larger than us, older than us, and completely beyond our control. Some believe the Leviathan was inspired by whales. Others think ancient people may have imagined it from crocodiles, giant fish, sea reptiles, or fossils found near the coast. But no matter where the idea came from, the fear behind it was real. Because when sailors looked into the black water, they did not see an empty ocean. They saw a doorway a doorway into a world they could not survive in. And in that world, anything could be waiting. Then there was another monster sailors feared for centuries, the sea serpent. Long before satellites, engines, or modern navigation, sailors crossed the ocean with only stars, maps, and hope. And in the distance, many claimed to see something moving through the waves. Long, dark, twisting. A creature like a snake, but far too large to be any normal animal. The sea serpent appears in stories from many parts of the world. Sometimes it was described as a giant snake, sometimes as a dragon-like creature, sometimes as a long black shape moving through fog, rising and vanishing before anyone could understand what they had seen. Picture the deck of a ship at night. The moonlight touches the water. Then a long shape breaks the surface. One curve rises, then another, then another. It moves silently through the waves. The sailors freeze. No one speaks. Then, just as quickly as it appeared, the creature slips back under the surface. Gone. Was it a monster? Was it a whale seen from a strange angle? Was it an oarfish? Was it something real that looked impossible in the darkness? That is why sea serpent legends are so powerful. They live on the edge between imagination and possibility. The ocean truly does contain strange, long-bodied animals. Some are rarely seen. Some live far from shore. And some look so unusual that even today they feel like creatures from another world. For a frightened sailor in the middle of a black sea, one glimpse would be enough. A sea serpent did not have to destroy a ship to become a legend. It only had to be seen once, and then disappear. But not every sea monster attacked with teeth or tentacles. Some were terrifying because sailors did not realize they were monsters until it was too late. One of the strangest legends is the living island. A massive creature so large that its back looked like land. Imagine a crew lost at sea for days. Their food is almost gone. Their water is running low. The men are exhausted. Then, through the fog, they see something ahead. Land. A small island. A place to rest. A place to survive. They row toward it. The surface looks like rock. There are trees. There is mud. There are dark stones rising from the water. For the first time in days, the sailors feel hope. Then the island moves. The ground trembles. The rocks shift. The trees lean to one side. The water begins to swirl. And then one enormous eye opens beneath the moss and stone. They were never standing on land. They were standing on the back of something alive. In some legends, the living island was like a giant whale. In others, it was like a turtle carrying stones, trees, and earth across its shell. Maybe these stories came from real whales surfacing near ships. Maybe they came from floating debris, volcanic rock, or strange landforms seen through fog. But the idea is terrifying because it turns safety into danger. The one thing sailors prayed to find becomes the monster itself. Land becomes a trap, hope becomes fear, and the sea takes everything back. Then there is the creature that brings the story closer to reality, the giant squid. Unlike many sea monsters, the giant squid is not only a legend, it is real, and for a long time it was almost as mysterious as any mythical beast. Before modern science confirmed more about it, most people rarely saw a giant squid alive. They found pieces, tentacles, beaks, bodies washed onto shore, enough to prove that something strange lived in the deep, but not enough to fully understand it. Now imagine being an ancient sailor and finding a massive tentacle floating beside your ship. The suckers are huge, the skin is pale, the body disappears into dark water. What would you think? Would you believe it was only an animal? Or would you believe it belonged to a monster beneath the sea? The giant squid lives in a world humans were never built to enter, a world of darkness, pressure, silence, and violent battles we almost never witness. One of the most haunting ideas is that giant squid may fight sperm whales deep below the surface. Far beneath the waves, where no human eye can see, two giants meet in the dark. A whale dives into the abyss. A squid rises from below. Tentacles wrap around the predator. The whale pushes deeper. The squid holds on. No light, no sound, only a battle hidden under miles of water. This is why the giant squid matters so much to sea monster legends. It proves that the deep ocean can create creatures that look impossible. And if one monster of legend had a real-world explanation, what else could be waiting below? Maybe sailors exaggerated what they saw. Maybe fear changed the shape of real. Now tell me, which monster would you never want to face? Comment "I choose" and tell me why. And if you want the next Dark File, like, subscribe, and stay with Dark Beyond.